This is recording 872. The name of this podcast is Listen Next 872. It's a part of my podcast series called Speaking to the CIA. You can find me at speakingtothecia.com or ChristinaStasia918.com. That's Christina, ChristinaStatia 918.com. Okay, so I'm going to go over recent news events. I went to look and see what news has happened in the past week, or get an update on latest news events. Again, to see if Gene and her Manson occult committed any of these crimes. Okay, so there are several crimes. So I'm going to report all of them. Okay, so first, before I get started though, so I don't forget, because I always forget before I end a podcast, I always forget. Gene Roberts and her Manson occult / KKK keep hacking my employer. It's not acceptable for you to hack any business anywhere. And I know there is a major cyber breach somewhere I saw this week, and I didn't even go research it because I know you already know if Gene Roberts is behind it. So anyway, it's not acceptable for you to hack my employer. And then in my brain and mental telepathy, she claims she has permission. And then in the past couple of weeks, there was like argument going on back and forth in my brain, people talking back and forth. And they were like, somebody was like, you're not supposed to be hacking them, talking about my company. And then someone said, you don't have permission. And then they said, Gene Roberts people said in return, like, they didn't know that or something. They were just like, they didn't know, they didn't have permission, or this is what they're told to do or something. I don't know. But the last I know is that Gene Roberts has an illegal contract set up, which puts this out of Tulsa police's hands. It's a federal issue. And the woman needs to be arrested and executed. But I don't see where anything has changed with this, but she has an illegal contract trying to be cute, and she wants to make this all look like it's the cartel. She's got all these fantasy delusions. Everything is everybody else's fault. Gene Roberts is your new walking, living, breathing Statue of Liberty. Just let her love on you and your children. That's how she carries herself. Anyway, you can tell I'm at it with this woman. I need her to be arrested. I'm sick of her lies. I'm sick of her con. I'm sick of her terrorism. Anyway, so, okay. So as I was saying, she has an illegal contract, okay, where she is letting people out of prison underground. Like, there's like tunnels and pathways and stuff underground. And she lets them go underground. And then they're under order. They're supposed to do what she tells them to do. And part of it is like hacking me or attacking me and my brain and mental telepathy, basically following Gene's orders, doing what Gene says. Now, some of this has been disrupted by, and I haven't seen this a lot lately, so I don't know what's going on, if people are just silent and not talking, or if they've cleared people out of the way. Like, I don't know what's going on. But it used to be where you had that dynamic going on, and then you would also have like celebrities on who have underground hideouts and had ways to get close. Because connecting to my brain and mental telepathy, there's some kind of like radar to it. Like it has to be in a certain proximity. Now that proximity can be adjusted, but you have to be within a certain proximity. So anyway, they can get close and pick up on, so I can hear people in my brain. But then they tell me they have people that call in from all over the United States to communicate in mental telepathy. So I don't know what the schematic of that of late has changed. But anyway, I more or less just hear her and her Gene Roberts and her criminals, her and her worshipers. And they do every single thing that Gene says. Gene provides for them. And they in turn lie for Gene and give Gene anything she wants. And they are some of the people that lie to people out on the street, because the gossip and the lies makes it out onto the street, which is the way Gene demands it. Gene orders it. So then regular people get sucked into it. But it all really goes back right to Gene Roberts and her Manson occult, the leaders of her Manson occult. Gene Roberts is the leader of Charles Manson. She has been since the late 60s. Okay, so she's got a militia that keeps constantly claiming their Marine Corps, which, again, like I told you, it doesn't stop them from going and suckering people in the actual military, but this is a running joke to them. Like, frame the military. So everything in my brain, it's all I ever freaking hear. It's a Marine! It's a Marine! It's a Marine! And then they go, and that's from the Marine! And that's from the Marine! I mean, it's constant in my brain. It's ridiculous. So, which has always been Gene's plan, as I've decoded, probably before I was born, but I've decoded all the way throughout my whole life, through my childhood, in early grade school, even all the way back to 1971 or 1972, just after I was born, all the way back. I mean, there's so much evidence of her planning to frame the military. I bet you, with the Charles Manson murders, she committed those murders. I bet you she tried to frame them too. I bet she tried to blame that on the military too. I bet you frickin' anything. But anyway, so she's hacking my company. Now she thinks she's Mrs., which she is. You don't ever underestimate evil people. Never underestimate them, no matter how many brain cells they're missing. She financially owns the United States of America, her and her Manson occult, Gene Jernigan Roberts. And they'll tell you that. Just the snottiest white supremacist Satanists you've ever met in your life. And that's literally what they are. They're so horrible. Anyway, but the way they've gotten wealthy is by using stolen artificial intelligence and stealing using artificial intelligence. And you can go through my whole podcast. You can see how she's been getting away with that for 60 plus years. So I don't really consider her the wealthiest anything anywhere, because everything she has belongs to someone else, because she ripped it off. Just like she tries to rip off my life. Just like she tries to steal my name. Just like she tries to steal my entire life. Just like nothing is sacred anywhere. She owns everything, and everything is hers. And do what she says, and then she'll give you a little something. It's ridiculous. She needs to be arrested. But anyway, she has the high and mighty attitude that she is allowed to, or told people they're allowed to, or ordered people to. I don't know what. And I think she literally does it herself too, in hacking my company. It needs to stop. Charges need to be I've pressed charges. I've turned her into the CIA. Just like turning your head, and I'm talking to anybody that lives in Tulsa that's dealing with Gene Roberts and her Manson occult trying to hijack or take over Tulsa. Like, I've pressed charges against her to the CIA, but you turning your head and pretending that it's someone else's problem and it's not affecting you is insane. And you allowing somebody to use stolen artificial intelligence, and you know about it, and you let them use that, blindly trusting them in their sack of lies. They're using stolen artificial intelligence to act moralistically. No, they're not. They're criminals. The hacking, the criminal, you have to turn them in. And you have to turn them in making reports to the government. But anyway, so, okay, let me go over crimes that she committed. Okay, so, okay, I already turned her in for the Seattle shooting. That's already in my last couple of podcasts. Here's more on that. This morning, I had Fox News on, and they were talking about it. And there's a couple more things. I know no matter what I listen to, I decode so much crime that Gene Roberts has committed. If I note something, I note something, like, instantly. So, anyway, he said something, it was a police chief that was on. He said something about armory. So, that's related. That's how you know Gene Roberts and her Manson occult committed this crime. And then also, he said something about a Spring Auto magazine. The assailant had a Spring Auto magazine. Okay, so Spring, Spawn, Charles Manson. And then everything means something, okay? All right, so Spring Auto magazine. So the initials of that are SAM. So she's using like a Son of Sam reference. And then the police chief says it was not used. So again, you can tell that was Gene Roberts and her Manson occult that committed this crime. And this is why. Because when she was pre-planning to do 9/11 and in the execution of 9/11, right, the events right up leading to 9/11, all pre-planned, Gene Roberts used artificial intelligence, icing people in the Taliban, Al Qaeda, whoever the operatives were that were accused of being in the Taliban or Al Qaeda, and then later on Osama bin Laden was blamed and all that. Okay, so like some of these guys are their group. Okay, so anyway, so she iced these guys. Okay, so she iced them. They lived in Florida near her, for one, which I bet you they didn't even know that. For two, okay, so then she iced one to go into a Kinko's, and another pilot, and there might be more than one pilot, but another pilot, she had taking flight classes at the Spartan School of Aeronautics here in Tulsa. He was registered for the classes. He was signed up for the classes. He never went to class. He never went. So you see how that relates to this? Gene is making a sarcastic joke because remember in my earlier podcast how the Middle East made a sarcastic joke back at Gene when they said they found out that Gene Roberts and her Manson occult are the ones that iced the pilots, and they are the ones who they are the true ones who did the World Trade Center attack. Gene Roberts, the one who running around acting like she's Mrs. Statue of Liberty, USA, and everybody should just bow to her. And the Middle East said to her, we didn't go to the Spartan School of Aeronautics, which I thought was the funniest comeback line ever. Because they're saying, we didn't do 9/11, you did. And she really did, literally did 9/11. I've decoded her plans, I've decoded her execution, and I've turned her in, and she is still not arrested. So anyway, she's being sarcastic and making a comeback comment, and so she committed this shooting, and then she's using that Spring Auto magazine and then Sam, Son of Sam, and then it wasn't used. So she's trying to say that it was the Middle East, that it wasn't her, by taking their comment that they said against her and her flipping it back at them, is what's going on there. So another thing, but it's not. It was Gene Roberts and her Manson occult / Ku Klux Klan. White. What I mean by white is you have to like talk in Shakespeare around here. You have to like say 100 sentences to explain one sentence or to say one sentence, because Gene lies about every sentence. Gene lies. Anything you say to her, communicating in mental telepathy is a loss. It's an influx and a flood of her liars wanting to get away with committing crime. They are spreading lies for money. They are running rackets. They're funding the money into the terrorism that Gene is also planning and executing. It's a big, gigantic terrorism trafficking racket, and it's all run by Gene Roberts. And then Gene gets on the other end of it and acts like she's the hero and tries to reel it in. And then she tries to silence me. She is, like I told you, she has stalked me my entire life. She's stalked my family. She has stalked me my entire life. And she stupidly and arrogantly assumes that the world, and I know there are a lot of people around the world who know full well what's going on now. Thank God. For years now, starting 5 years ago, well, probably starting when I first started decoding almost 10 years ago, but when I officially got her turned in 5 years ago, and then all the way up, and then prevalently in the past couple of years, because I have a podcast in making the United States government very aware that they need to arrest Gene, and then making me aware that this is a hostage situation and she has ballistics, and I'm running out of patience, and I really would just love it if they would arrest Gene Roberts and her Manson occult. Anyway, so she stupidly and arrogantly assumes with her people. See, they play this little game. Christina we've just decided that we've used Christina all her life. She's a nothing. She's a piece of dirt. We're just getting money out of her. Like, we're, spreading lies and making money off of, basically I'm trash to them and they're making money off of their trash. I'm disposable, expendable is what they're doing. Okay. So me making a podcast or making reports against them is frivolous. So they have this little game amongst themselves. Don't go to her podcast. Don't find out anything. Just go with what we say. We decide what is and what's not, which all they do is lie. I mean, who needs more of that? Lying. And everything they say is a freaking lie. And she pushes and crams lies out hardcore. But anyway, she stupidly and arrogantly assumes that people all over the world, up to 8 billion people who know what's going on, are all worshiping and paying attention only to Gene Roberts and her Manson occult, and going along only with her lies, and not finding out what's really going on out of the need for wanting to know what's going on. The woman is a terrorist. So what is the first thing what is the first thing that happens? You feel fear. what's going on. Which means, what do? You head right to law enforcement. So, like, people haven't gone to law enforcement and intelligence finding out what's going on. Like, they haven't gone and tried to make reports against her. See, she makes it seem by appearances that she's getting away with this by controlling the media and controlling the gossip and lies on the street, but literally she has no control. She makes a fool of herself. Because the entire intelligence community around the world knows that Jane Roberts is a terrorist. She is a Caucasian, white supremacist, Satanist terrorist from Milton, Florida. So anyway, okay, so back to remember I told you all about the snake terrorism? Okay, so you're going to have to see all my podcasts on snake terrorism. I saw this article in Albuquerque, 52 venomous snakes found during drug raid at Albuquerque home. So, and all the snakes, it's like all the snakes I recognize. Oh my God. So, this is one of Jean's things is this is not, these are regular snakes. Okay, these are not the gigantic monster snakes that are underground. However, I wonder if they even I wonder how they do that, because those are special breed snakes, how they do that with their skin. Like, there's so many weird questions, but they're specially bred. They're hybrid. The big gigantic ones underground. So there's no telling what the capacity, what is there. And the government's certainly not going to tell you, because they don't even want to tell you there's a bunch of freaking big snakes underground. Even though everybody knows they're underground. Everywhere. But it'll cause a public panic. So they just let people know using nonverbal cues, so people do not panic. So anyway, another thing that Jean does is she pretends it's all the gangsters, which means she has farmed out and fanned out and sold some of this to gangsters, and gangsters, just like anybody else, they're gonna purchase those snakes, because it's like a new weapon. You're not going to get an arsenal of a new weapon and me not have those same weapons to defend myself against you. Okay, so there's a lot of that going on with the big snakes. So within that is making it look like it's the gangs, and then actually funneling and selling to the gangs, making it look like, so then you've got these smaller snakes, which she pays them to go dump these snakes into the frames of people's homes, into their roofs, into the walls, under the floorboards, sometimes in the house, sometimes in furniture. And then Jean will blame the gangs for it. It's Jean's doing. But anyway, so this is very good news. 52 venomous snakes found during drug raid at Albuquerque home. This is freaking awesome, because they can follow this. They know, we all know that Jean is the end party, but they can follow this whole vein all the way back up to Jean. Where and how and what with all the snakes. So anyway, and then I saw something else really cool. I think it was in France. They arrested 162 people for starting wildfires. That is freaking awesome. Because Jean Roberts and her people are arsonists. They start fires everywhere. I've decoded so many fires that they have started. the number, which shouldn't surprise me because of how big her occult is, the tens of thousands of people there are in her occult, and her occult spans worldwide. It shouldn't have surprised me with the number, but it still surprises me, like, wow, like 162 people, that is a lot of people. Which is probably a drop in the bucket to the amount of people that she has starting fires everywhere. But that is a huge group of people. That is amazing. And I was so happy to see that they arrested them. Which means they're well aware that Gene Roberts and her Manson occult is starting fires everywhere. So that's good news there. Okay, so... Alright. You know what? Let me end this recording. Let me end this recording and then I'm going to do another one. Okay? Because I'm already at 25 minutes.